On April 16, 2014, I sat down to watch the latest episode of my new favorite show, The Americans. This was episode 8 of season 2 entitled New Car. The show took place in the 1980s in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was struck in the first season by all the pop culture references. But let's back up a bit. The Americans was an FX drama series starring Kerry Russell and Matthew Rhys, playing two Soviet KGB officers posing as US citizens and a married couple. In the show, they are raising two American kids in Falls Church, Virginia, which is a suburb of DC. Right out of the opening credits, Philip and his other wife Martha, too hard to explain, not going into it, are lying in bed and a commercial comes on their TV.
Clark, there's still one thing that's bothering me. I mean, I'm so proud of the way we got through the past couple weeks. And everything is great. But, well, I really like everyone at work.
Oh yeah, I was stunned. Let me tell you why. When we first moved to Virginia in the summer of 1987, I knew 0 people, and therefore spent a lot of time watching daytime television. My morning lineup consisted of shows like Alice, Taxi, Three's Company, Sanford & Son, Good Times, Too Close for Comfort, Rhoda, and One Day at a Time. I'm sure I flipped around a lot, but my main viewing would have been on WDCA 20. It was a local station affiliated with Fox, and which eventually turned into Paramount 20 or UPN. I didn't have a cable box in my bedroom, so I only received about 7 channels. After lunch, I usually set off on my bike to explore our new neighborhood, but for those early morning hours, I sat glued to my shows. The primary way local television networks made money was through ad revenue. Mixed in with all the national commercials were the very low budget segments that would play seemingly during every ad break. In Texas, my grandma always called them yokel local commercials, dominated by campy acting, cheesy songs, and terrible production. Remember this guy?
Encyclopedia Britannica. Now you tell me. I've got a report due tomorrow.
On what?
On the exploration of space.
And because you couldn't skip the commercials, I learned a lot about local businesses in cities with exotic names like Alexandria, Arlington, and Falls Church. If you're not from the DMV, then when you watch this scene between Philip and Martha, you wouldn't have taken much notice in the commercial. But I did. It was for the Junri Taekwondo Studios. I can't find a clip of the exact one from the TV show, but it doesn't matter, as there were many commercials over the years. Bear with me for a moment as I plant a worm in your ear.
When you take Junri self-defense, then you too can say, nobody bothers me, nobody bothers me. Call USA 1000. Junri means might for right.
Nobody buys me. Nobody buys me either.
Okay, there's a lot going on in this one commercial. A catchy song, a man doing spin kicks, and 2 cute kids at the end with instantly quotable catchphrases. But the Junri story is triumphal and colorful and way too big for me to cover in a YouTube video. Junri was born in Korea in 1932. He started training in martial arts in his early teens. While an officer in the Korean military, he attended school in Texas and then trained to be an engineer at the University of Texas at Austin. Sometime during the 1960s, he met and befriended Bruce Lee and taught him an unblockable fast punch that Lee dubbed the Acupunch. While in Texas, he issued the first of many black belts to a student. When he graduated from university, he moved to the Washington, D.C. area and opened his first Taekwondo studio on K Street. In 1973, he made a martial arts movie called When Taekwondo Strikes, and he had a small role in Fist of Fury. He taught the acupunch to Muhammad Ali before the Thrilla in Manila fight with Joe Frazier. During the 1980s, he operated at least 11 Taekwondo studios in the DMV. I've read it was as high as 18 studios. Also in the 1980s, they produced several commercials advertising the studio. The two children featured at the end of every one of the commercials were his own son and daughter. Legend has it that either a producer or the cameraman suggested that they be included. As I've stated, the commercials were on heavy rotation throughout the 1980s and even on into the 1990s. Jun-ri passed away in 2018. His funeral was attended by politicians on both sides of the aisle, celebrities, students both past and present, and of course family members. A veritable who's who of Washington society. All right, I am in Falls Church in Arlington today for work, and it's pretty miserable outside, but I wanted to show you something cool because there are two studios left operating in the Jun-ri Taekwondo School name. It's my understanding it's no longer in the family, but it is owned by two business partners. They've owned it since 2005, and they still are carrying on the tradition of Jun-ri and all of his teachings, which I think is really cool. We're gonna just go inside. I know they're closed, so I'm not loitering or anything like that. I just want to see exactly where the studio is located, and then we're gonna go to one other location. So let's go check it out. Okay, we were just at their Arlington location, and now we're at the Falls Church location. And on paper, it's about 3.5 miles away. But if you've ever been to Northern Virginia, you know it takes a lot longer than that. And this is, it looks like a more modern strip mall than the last one that we were in. So I'm assuming this is a newer location. I know at one point they had somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 to 18 different locations around the Northern Virginia area. They were so prevalent with those commercials. I mean, they were running non-stop when I was a kid. And I'm having a really hard time actually doing the research, trying to figure out where all the different locations were. I know there was one, I believe on Smoketown Road. Somebody posted on a Reddit thread that there's a thrift store there now. And if it's the one that I think they're talking about, it's a thrift store that I actually go to quite a bit. So let me know the different locations that were in the Northern Virginia area, because again, I'm having a really hard time finding that information. And what about that catchy theme song? You may recognize the voice as that of Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Nils Lofgren, founder of the band Grin, solo artist, frequent collaborator of Neil Young and many other musicians, and longtime member of the E Street Band. He was a Maryland resident. Nils wrote and performed the song as a work-for-hire gig in the late 70s. Same story, different day, and I fell down a rabbit hole as I often do. As I was investigating the Nils Lofgren of it all, I came across the actual recording studio where not only this recording was, but numerous other Grammy Award winning recordings. And that was at Bias Studio in Falls Church, Virginia. Now, Bias Studios still exists, but they are in Springfield. They've been in Springfield for decades. But I was curious because I couldn't find any information on Discogs where their studios were. And they come up a lot on Discogs because, again, there were some Grammy Award winning productions here. And not just Grammy Award winning, I mean, a ton of artists have come through this studio in the 50 plus years that they've been in operation. But I couldn't find the actual Falls Church address where this particular recording was recorded. And so I just reached out on the customer contact form on Bias's website, and the office manager or the manager of the studio got back with me. She was very nice. She actually was curious why I was investigating this particular commercial because she said so many other big time productions have happened there. But she said that the building is still here, and it is, and she gave me the address, and there's really not much to look at, and I don't know how much we're going to be able to see because it looks like it's a children's school now. So that makes it a little bit awkward for me to be filming, but let's go check it out. Boy, talk about awkward. I really hated doing that because it is like a daycare or a preschool or an actual children's school. I'm not really sure which, but we're doing this for the sake of history, and I went across the street. It's actually kind of busy here because there's an Aldi, but there's also a bunch of different smaller office complexes through here, and this would have been sort of the working man's area of Falls Church back in the 70s. This is like the main drag, or this would have been the main drag, and a bunch of friends that I know that grew up in this area said this was a pretty hopping area. A lot of the retail establishments were here. A lot of the food places that kids hung out with were here. So this was a pretty hopping place back in the day, and especially in the 70s when this was recorded. And it's funny to think how many celebrities have been in and out of this studio when it was a studio, and even the one in Springfield. And it leads me to I'm pretty convinced now that I may have to do a separate video on Bias because they have a pretty fascinating history, and I'm just still learning about it. Unfortunately, from my research, it does not appear that June Rhee ever met Nils Lofgren, which is hard to believe. One amusing anecdote I uncovered is that in addition to payment for the song, Master Rhee gifted Nils with free Taekwondo lessons. I suppose that offer still stands. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this little video. I just wanted to say that it's crazy how a TV show like The Americans that had so many different references to the Northern Virginia area was not filmed anywhere in the DMV. I believe most of it was filmed in like Brooklyn and Queens, New York City. But it's cool how many reference drops during the entire series, and I think it'd be fun to cover a couple more of them here on this channel. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you are a June Rhee student, or if you are a current student, welcome, and I hope you found this video enjoyable. Again, I don't know a lot about the martial arts. I just am going off of what I've read on the internet. And subscribe for more retro good content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.